Life as Ceremony shares personal stories, interviews with inspirational souls, and practical wisdom to help you reconnect with yourself and spirituality. Hi, everyone. Today we have Kaitlin Vitt joining us. She is a writer and a humanitarian. Thanks for joining us today, Kaitlin.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
So I was thinking, if you're okay with it, before we dive into our conversation today about your connection with Ukrainian culture, about your recent trip volunteering in Ukraine for 5 weeks, would it be okay if we started with some fun questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to share a few this or that questions and then a few rapid fire. Okay?
Okay.
And that way people can get to know you. And yeah, okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Solitude or community?
Solitude.
I love how easy that was for you to answer. Dogs or cats?
That's a tricky one. I'm going to say dogs, but yeah, I also think my next animal on my own will be a cat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right in the middle, I guess.
I'm really grateful you said dogs. Otherwise, that might have been the end of our friendship. Um, no, I'm just kidding. I actually thought about adding that one as like a screening question before people come on the podcast, just to make sure they're dog people. No, I'm totally kidding. We're here for cat people too. And I can totally see you with a cat. Do
hmm
you have any names picked out?
Oh, I have like a list on my phone, yes. Have you
Okay.
ever been asked the like ice breaking question? Oh, now I'm asking you questions. But have you
Remember
ever been
when you hijacked my podcast? Okay,
Yeah,
keep going.
but have you been to like an ice breaking thing before, icebreaker questions? And then one time I was at this like it was actually a friends gathering, but it was a whole bunch of teachers there, so of course they're gonna do icebreakers. And their question was, "Are you more dog energy or cat energy?" And
Ah,
like I'm absolutely more cat energy, and
yeah.
since realizing that, I've started to more come into like, oh yeah, I might be getting a cat next.
Appreciating cat energy. Yeah. And I can see that. And the solitude makes sense. Cats
Mm.
love their solitude for the
But then
most part.
also love to be with people, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next one, sunrise or sunset?
Hmm. Also a tricky one. I'm gonna say sunset.
Sunset. Very nice. Okay. Favorite season, if you have one?
Summer.
Summer. Yeah. Celebrity crush.
Hmm. I'm such a like I'm so out of touch with celebrities and I can't even like think of names of them. Celebrity crush. I mean, is it bad? No one is like coming to mind right away.
No, that's okay. To be honest with you, I actually almost took this question out because I was so stressed you were going to name someone who I didn't know. And then I was going to feel really embarrassed because I feel also pretty out of touch.
Right.
So you can pass. You can pass. You can
Okay.
also pass on any question on the podcast. I want you to
I-
know that. If I ever.
Instead of me answering I'm gonna ask you, who is your celebrity crush?
David Beckham.
Oh,
I
okay.
David Beckham.
Yeah.
I actually met David Beckham at Soul
I
Cycle my first time
know.
in LA. I know. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Maybe he'll come on Life is Ceremony one day. One day. Would you rather be the funniest person in a room or the smartest?
Funniest.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Best book you've ever read or best book you've read this year?
Okay. I'm going to okay, this is rapid fire. Okay. But I'm going to just say one that's more in line with like our conversation today because I have so many like top books. I don't have one absolute favorite, but one that really stands out is called The Silence of Trees by Valia. I can't think of her last name,
Mhm.
but I can tell you later. But it was the first book that I read. It's about Ukrainian culture. It follows this like family who's from Ukraine, and I haven't read it in a long time, but I think it's about like this person learning about her grandmother's story, who and her grandmother has never really opened up about the kind of like the life and the hardships that she had in life. But the way that the author introduces Ukrainian traditions and folklore into this novel. That was the first time, even though I know other people have done that. That was the first time I had seen it done like so beautifully, and I learned so much, both about like history, about folklore, about all this traditions, and I just am so inspired by that person. I one time even emailed the author and told her how much I love the book because I get that book for all of my Ukrainian friends. And yeah, so I'm gonna say that book.
And she replied to you, right?
And she did reply, and she sent the most beautiful message, and we like went back and forth a little bit too. So
Uh, well, I can only imagine, yeah, how special that book is, even with the story you just shared to kind of go along with it. So it's The Silence of Trees.
yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. Last rapid fire question for you. Do you have a favorite quote or just like words to live by?
Oh, like I have so many quotes say in the notes app of my phone, in all of my notebooks. Do I have one that I want to share that's coming to mind right now? Um, I should have prepared better for this. I
No,
should have
that's okay.
known
This
this
was
type of
rapid
question
fire.
was going to come from you. Um, okay, okay, okay. Um, um, okay, here's one. Done is better than
I
perfect.
knew you were gonna say that.
Campfire.
I actually
Really?
knew you were gonna say that. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's actually one of my favorite ones. Done is better than perfect. And that is something you have said. And that is definitely something that has gotten me through many like work assignments.
I was giggling to myself because if you didn't share some words to live by, I was gonna bring up done is better than perfect, just in relation to me starting this podcast and doing my best, and done is better than perfect. And I've got to work with that if I ever want to, put this out into the world. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so what inspired you to volunteer in Ukraine?
Okay, so I went to Ukraine in end of September to the start of October, and I volunteered with this nonprofit called Ukrainian Patriot. It's founded by someone who's from Canada, but she's lived in Ukraine for the past 20 years. And so today it's like this organization is an American, is a Canadian, and a Ukrainian organization. And I mean, short answer is that I wanted to help the people in Ukraine. Longer answer, even though I've already been giving you the longer answer. Um, I have I have Ukrainian roots. My great grandparents came from Ukraine, and so I feel like very drawn to that country. And I've had the chance to go to Ukraine twice before. I was there in 2014 just for a few days, there in 2017 to 2018 to study Ukrainian dance, language, and culture. And just, I mean, since being there, I just have been thinking about going back. And when the full scale invasion started,
Mhm.
um, it has been on my mind to um, be there in person to do what I can because
Mhm.
I mean, I have this. I work for myself right now. I like am able to travel. I have this privilege of having like of living in Canada in a safe home that yeah, it's like I have all of this massive privilege and I wanted to be able to try to use some of this, I guess, to like not everyone is able to go to Ukraine to help in person,
Mhm.
and if it's not other people helping, then it's Ukrainian people who are also just trying to survive their day to day in
Mhm.
during a wartime. And so yeah, so there's been a whole bunch of factors. Uh, Different people I've met have inspired me of like why I felt drawn to go. But yeah, I guess my heritage is a big connection, and just my connection to that country.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I think you answered another question I had, which was, going to the country to volunteer versus helping from afar. And it sounds like because of how your life is set up and working for yourself, you were aware of the privilege you had of, hey, not everyone who wants to help can physically go there, but I can, so I'm going to do this.
Yes.
And yeah, and can I ask if you were scared or worried or what that felt like?
Um, I wasn't okay. This is I'm saying now, like I wasn't scared to go this during this time. When I have definitely been scared for Ukrainians of thinking of like being there myself in general the last couple years, but in regards to like being there this time, I think because I knew what I was getting or I knew what to expect. I am someone who stays up to date with like trusted news sources, so it's not like and I also I know myself and I'm not I wasn't there to like be a hero and to go out to all these like on the front lines without all the gear that's needed, stuff like that. So I knew which is also just that's also like such a privileged thing to say that like I have the choice of where I get to go because I'm someone who's not from there and I'm yeah, so anyways, lots of there's definitely been like a lots of like questions wrestling with like guilt and everything. And lots of
Mhm.
people in the Ukrainian diaspora have talked about that. Um, but yeah, so no, I actually wasn't scared. I also have had friends, my friend Kaitlin, also Kaitlin, she's a volunteer with Ukrainian Patriot, and I talked a lot with her about what to expect, about any like if I ever had some sort of like question or concern, I would talk with her about it. I would talk with you about it. And I just I'm also very like proud of the support system I have that like if yeah, I so anyways, this is more I guess like the mental game of things. Um and I also know that the Ukrainian like defense is like incredible and amazing, and they are doing their very best to keep everyone safe. I was also went to the capital city of Kyiv, which generally speaking life is going on as much as it can. This isn't to say the war isn't ongoing there, just recently there's been a lot more attacks. Today actually, it's the 19th, it's 1,000 days since the full-scale invasion started, and the last few days there's been seems like I mean, it's yeah, it seems like even more heavily attacked, or places are being more heavily attacked that aren't always sort of a thing. Um, but yeah, in general, I wasn't scared. It's like I talked with my new friend Corey, who's in Ukraine. He also had me on his podcast, Corey.ua on Instagram. But he asked a bit about like, yeah, about if I felt scared too. And I like, we kind of talked about how it's not even uh, it's like you just kind of accept what I chose to be here. I chose to do what I can to help people. And yeah, and that's I'm putting myself here. I'm going to do my very best to stay safe. We also to put into perspective like life in general, anything can happen to you anywhere. Of course that it does change things when you're at a country at war defending itself. But yeah, I think, anyways, overall wasn't scared. There were definitely times I felt more scared where there the places I were where you like you could see drones like that Russia sent flying. Could look out my apartment and see that. Felt like the like explosions that just shake you to your bones, that sort of thing. There were definitely times I was scared, but um, overall I felt good going there.
Okay. And
Mm.
would you go back?
Absolutely. I really, yeah, absolutely. It, I mean, I knew I would want to go back.
Mhm.
Just, yeah, I knew when I would go there, I'd be like, yeah, I want to go back. But also I was open. I had to leave the other like side of it open. Like I haven't been to that country for a few years. It's obviously like very different right now, but it was just a matter of a couple of days when I started to be like, oh no, I need to come back here to volunteer with Ukrainian Patriot, like as soon as I
Mhm.
can. And then yeah, and then I remember like 1 week into being there, I just felt like such in this flow of things of um starting to, I guess, like get in the groove of thing with Ukrainian Patriot and like just everything like that. But yeah, I want to go back. Um, and hopefully in spring, I want to go back.
Okay, to volunteer
Yes,
again
for a
or
couple months.
to
Yeah, for to volunteer for a couple more months.
okay, with Ukrainian Patriot.
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how does it work with the organization when you're going there? And do they support you with accommodations? Like what did it look like?
Yeah, so it's also uh, um okay, so like I said, it's founded by this woman named Lana,
Mhm.
Lana Nicole Nyland. She's from Canada. And this organization started just a few days after the full-scale invasion started. And it started with just a couple of people and it has grown into, it's still like, I mean, there are a lot of volunteers, but it's actually incredible the amount of work that this team does. Like
Mhm.
it's, and just the connections Lana has and like the relationships they build to like be able to help more people. It's really incredible.
Mhm.
But yeah, so once like you apply to be a volunteer and everything, go through the whole thing, and then you find your own, like you have to get there yourself. And so I was actually visiting a friend before in our friend before in
Mhm.
in in the Netherlands, and then I flew from there to Krakow. And then I had to take a train from there. People take it from Krakow or from Warsaw often. Yeah, so then you take a train in. So then once you're there, Ukrainian Patriot does have an apartment for international volunteers that we pay like a quite low rent, but we do,
Mhm.
yeah, just to keep things all prepared for us. But yeah, so they set us up with a place which is like just incredible to have. That was actually one of my things that I was also concerned with. I live on my own,
Mhm.
and if I have like lived with people, it's with people I know and people I'm like who have known me for years, who I am okay with, like they know my true self. And that was definitely a thing of like, I think I can at time, I guess like anyone can put on like a mask when you first meet people and then you like get to the point of like, wait a minute, that's not even who I really am and why am I showing this is like whatever. And so that was one of the things I didn't know, like living for one, like living with a bunch of strangers, um, nervous to
How many?
like, am
Starting,
I
how many people are you living with?
So at one time, there were 5 guys in my apartment. That was only for a few nights. Generally, it was
One
4.
apartment. One apartment.
Yes, but it's a
5
big
people.
apartment. There's 3 bedrooms, like two to
Okay.
three beds per room. But yeah, I was the only girl when I was there. It was a
Did you
lot.
have to share a room?
No, I had my own.
Okay, you had your own room.
And
Okay.
I mean, and okay, so like I had said, I was a bit like nervous going into it. And then it's so funny because you get there and it's just like Ukrainian Patriot has a way with like finding the most amazing volunteers. Not to say anything, I don't, not to say anything about myself, but I just mean like people who click and people who like, even though we were all so different, I lived the range of people I lived with was like a 19-year-old to a 69-year-old, like and like we're from all over, from Canada, New Zealand, Sweden, like there's yeah, like a whole bunch of different backgrounds, different jobs. Like, anyways, we're all so different, but we all like obviously have this some sort of sense of like some same interest since we're all there to help Ukraine. But yeah. So, anyways, it ended up working out really well, and I yeah, like these people were like it was fun. Like we would just sometimes sit around the kitchen table and have just like the best conversations and like I mean, yeah, anyways, always like they're there to they know what you're doing the similar thing so like you can talk with them and relate to them quite easily. But yeah.
And you mentioned the age range of your roommates. Was there anyone closer in age with you? And yes, okay.
Yeah, there was Yeah, I also at times like I this could have been like a reality TV show of just how like in
That's
like
what I'm thinking. Like, that's what I want to ask you. I'm like picturing you on like literally going to Ukraine to volunteer for 5 weeks. You're in this apartment with five male roommates ranging from this age to this age. I'm like, okay, keep going, keep going. Tell us.
yeah. No, and it was just like just sometimes like I mean we all have our little quirks, right? And just like when those come out and I whatever, it's just great. Um so yeah, there's a couple other people my age. The new Will the New Zealander and John the Swede. So yeah, few people my age.
So, any romance? Like, you're living in a house with five guys. Like, are any of them cute? Does this turn into like, yeah,
No, this is these are strictly just roommates.
strictly roommates? Okay. And is there any rules around dating when you're volunteering with the organization?
I don't know technically about like with each other. I'm not sure if that's the thing, but there is a rule that in the safe house there's no canoodling allowed.
In the safe house, there's
Well,
no
it's in the apartment, yeah.
in oh okay. Okay, so the apartment is called the safe house, and
Yeah.
so there's a no canoodling.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are all the volunteers Ukrainian or do they have to be?
No, the people who like also there's other people who are volunteers with Ukrainian Patriot besides just those few people in the apartment. There's some people who there's a couple Americans who now live in Ukraine and they're volunteers. There are Ukrainians who volunteer. Like there's all of course people not just on the ground. So your question was what?
Um Oh, was there rules around dating?
Oh right.
That might
Was it that? No. Is that what?
no. That...
No. We're beyond that. No, it's related. It's okay. What would you ask after that question?
I can't remember.
Something
I'm
about
saying that.
something about volunteers.
Oh yeah, are the volunteers it's just
Ukrainian.
are they Ukrainian or do they have to be Ukrainian?
Welcome to our typical conversations with
I
each other.
know that's actually what it's like mid conversation with us on a regular day. It's like, wait, what was I talking about? And it's like,
Like seven tangents later, we
yeah.
get back there. Okay, so what I was going to say is the people who were in the like my apartment, none of them were Ukrainian. None of like except yeah,
Okay.
none of them. There are definitely people who are from like volunteers who do have a connection, but there are a lot who do not.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll get to this shortly because I want to talk to you more about your Ukrainian heritage and how that connects you with yourself and it being a huge driving factor as to why you went there. But before I do, just a couple other things on on your trip before we dive into more stuff. Um, what is something that you learned about yourself on this particular trip or experience? Are you calling it a trip? I meant to ask you if you're calling it more of like a volunteer mission or what are you referring to this experience as?
Yeah, I don't call it a trip just because that to me, like everyone
This
has their own
travel.
connotations with things. But yeah, or like I don't even say like I'm not traveling there because I'm not there to like I'm there to for a specific thing. Yeah, I guess some people might say mission, but I just say my time in Ukraine. I spent some time in Ukraine.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so anything I learned about myself changed?
Yeah.
Learned about myself.
Um, during your time in Ukraine this year,
Yes.
what's something you learned about yourself?
Yeah. Hmm. Another classic Sam Squire question. You can just edit out, you can just cut. I'll stay still and you can cut out my thinking.
I'm not going to.
No, okay. Can you, I'm gonna ask you, like, help me, give me some
Oh,
prompts.
okay, I think you learned that it is possible to live with five men and still find time to dermaplane your face.
I
That it
did.
is still possible to like have a beauty night and like your girl's gotta exfoliate. So believe it or not, she can find time for that, even with five male roommates. I think
Yes.
that's a good learning.
Yeah, that is. Okay. I, okay, sometimes when I answer questions this is for your audience to tell you. I'll tell your audience when I answer questions, I like sort of kind of answer them, but I also to just go in my own way. So that's what I'm gonna do right now.
We love
But I guess okay, we'll get to sort of answering the question, but I'm just gonna start talking.
that. Hmm.
One thing, like I just felt so myself there. I felt so grounded and felt so like just connected with myself, and I can be a very like I can be someone who's full of self-doubt or like always having hard times with decisions or something, just not like lacking confidence. And there I just felt like so in touch with what I was meant to be doing. I knew I was there. I was meant doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And one of the things that I noticed, so like I said, like I had even like I showed like my true self to my roommates, and like that was one thing I was nervous to do, not because I don't like myself, but just because you like you need to feel like safe and comfortable with people to show yourself.
Hmm.
And um so okay, so this I'm like felt like I was truly in my authentic self,
Hmm.
connected with myself. And just the people, the what confirmed with me, like how I knew I was where I was meant to be, is just like the opportunities that would come up, whether it was um, people like little like volunteer opportunities. I volunteered with a few places, or like work opportunities, friends I would meet, like there was this is also another example, like a very shallow example, but I'm gonna say it. Like there were like 5 days in a row that I was asked out or hit on every single day, which does not happen here. And I think, and like at the time, I was like, what kind of like energy am I putting out right now? And it wasn't even like I was like out there flaunting myself. I was like sitting in a coffee shop, and it was just like, so I think my lesson is just about what like you can attract when you like the energy you give off when you are like living your in your authentic self, sort of a thing.
Wow. Can you repeat that last line for us if you remember it? It was really powerful.
You think I remember it? I couldn't even
So
remember
silly.
the question you
Okay.
asked.
But what I'm hearing is that what you learned about yourself is that you are hot and amazing, and people in your current city aren't really noticing that. But no, I'm just kidding. I hear what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like one of the greatest things you learned about yourself is when you are yourself, when you are your authentic self, it you radiate with this energy that attracts people to you and makes you feel connected to the people there, the place where you are, and also what you're doing. Yeah.
Yes, thank you
Wow.
for summarizing that.
What a powerful takeaway. I mean, for all of us that, yeah, to learn that about yourself, of how you feel when you are a certain place in the world, and what that does for you personally, but also within your relationships, your friendships, all of it, right? Yeah.
Mm.
Um, yeah. I meant to ask you this earlier, and I still want to ask it just to also give listeners a better idea of really what's going on in Ukraine, because we can, read about it for sure, or see it through our screens, but you were physically there. And so I wanted to ask you, what does life look like in Ukraine right now? If you could just give readers, listeners, a little idea.
I was mostly in Kyiv, the capital city, and so there's of course been a lot of like different moments of how each city has looked through these past couple years. But in Kyiv, life is relatively going on in that yet okay, there are air raid sirens just about every single day.
Hmm.
Those are like these kind of eerie sounding alarms that go off to tell you to take shelter, like encouraging you to go into a bomb shelter there, which could be a metro station. Apartment buildings have them, like to take cover because there is something flying overhead, like a drone or a missile or something. So that happens pretty much every day. Um, sometimes buildings are hit, sometimes they're not. And when I say buildings, I don't just mean military buildings, which is like
Mhm.
technically what nothing should be hit in war, right? Like, but like
Mhm.
that's what the like military targets are what Russia says they're doing, but they're also hitting civilians.
Mhm.
So okay, so that still would go on even in like when I was there in like there's in different areas of the city. When in my area of the city where I was, like there were buildings that got hit.
Mhm.
um and yeah, so this is, and yet people like life has to go on, or life does go on because it has to, like you it, but yet when life goes on, that doesn't mean people are not thinking about the war the entire time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or like that they don't know someone who is at the front line or who has died or whatever else. So but like yeah, restaurants are open, coffee shops are open. I went to
Mhm.
like there's like band concerts, dance concerts, but there is a curfew, so you have to be at your house by midnight till 5 a.m. And that's in Kyiv. Other cities have much earlier curfews. In other cities, life does not look like this. Other cities are totally destroyed and like basically flattened. Um,
Mm.
there, some other places I had went to. I went to the east to Izium, which is in Kharkiv Oblast, and Kramatorsk, which is in Donetsk Oblast, which is like quite close to the front line. But in Izium, that was one that's like Russians had occupied this city the first year of the full scale invasion. And there's like, so they took over the buildings and they took like over people's homes and everything. But that was really heart wrenching to see, like that. Obviously, there those buildings that are destroyed are still like you see it still of like whatever roofs missing and holes in buildings and everything. Um, Yet there are like even there though that is like absolute destruction. They're still like rebuilding. Like in one place we had went to in Izium, this apartment or this business building. We had walked through it and it's just absolutely totally destroyed on the inside.
Mm.
But at the like, but they're putting in new windows and they're slowly like rebuilding this building from the inside out, sort of a thing. Um, yeah, and that, like I say, this is just a couple places. Like
Mhm.
there are right now, there's like Odessa, Sumy, Kharkiv, like I mean, and so many other places where we're on the front lines that are under like constant attack. Apartment buildings hit everything. So yeah, like it's very much going on, and yet like yeah, in some cities you might be able to grab a coffee, in other cities not so much, but yeah.
So really, yeah. And when you talk about is going on around. Like you can still hear sirens and you're going to a coffee shop and life is it's going on around you. And there's this sense of like moving forward. Life keeps moving forward. Like there's no stopping it. And how do you keep moving forward? How do you remain resilient? Yeah, during a time like this, no matter where you are in the world, even being, back in Canada, how do you remain resilient?
um I mean, mental health support is just so huge,
Hmm.
and like therapy has been
Hmm.
an excellent help. And just I'm very grateful for the community of people, whether that's practitioners or friends and family, who I can just turn to if I need to work through something. So that is definitely a big part and has helped me like believe more in myself, I guess.
Yeah. Um, One thing I think about what you just shared, which is so powerful in terms of remaining resilient, is remembering that we're not alone and we're not meant to do it alone. Like I think sometimes people also associate this word resilience with strength, and the way in which you highlighted what helps you is therapy, is going to someone else for additional support, of relying and leaning on community, family, and friends. Like that is a huge part of strength, or remaining resilient and not trying to, go through it alone, or whatever it might be. So I just love that that was your answer for resiliency, and I think it's a good reminder for all of us in terms of, however people relate personally to what you're sharing when we're faced with adversity. What do we do? What can we do? What are our own individual supports so that we can take care of ourselves in order to then take care of each other, in order to then take care of the world? So that's awesome that you do that. Okay. Mm, have your thoughts towards Ukraine changed since volunteering there?
Um, like I've of course always also I'm just looking right now and it's like so it's so beautiful and bright where you are right now and it's like the sun is setting here plus it's like a rainy day so sorry that it looks so like
No, that's okay. I'm sure most people are listening. I mean, if they're watching the video, great,
right,
but they're
right.
probably
Okay.
listening. Not to worry.
So, yeah, of course, I've always felt this big connection, and like each time I have been to Ukraine, this like connection to this country has grown, and it's not even something I can totally describe. It's just that
Mhm.
feeling of like being connected to something bigger when you are there and you're connecting with your heritage, connecting with yourself. This time, yeah, I didn't. Okay, I guess what actually really reinforced how my feelings and like my drive to help the country was when I went on to the east with Ukrainian Patriot. And so the Ukrainian Patriot, one of the things they do is deliver like medical supplies and food,
Mhm.
um, and they do some of these deliveries like with their own volunteers, their vehicles, and everything. And so I went with them, like I'd mentioned, to Izum, and we delivered food bags to the people there, to some people there. We delivered medical supplies to a hospital, or cleaning supplies to a military hospital, and we spent some time with kids running resilience sessions like that. We spent time Ukrainian dancing with them. We spent time um, speaking English with them, and yeah, just like that was a really nice experience. And so this when I was here in the East, that was the first time I had seen like that level of destruction in Kiev. You will
Mhm.
see like there's more areas in Kiev than what I had seen that have been damaged, but just of where I would pass every day, sort of a thing. Um, yeah, you would see buildings that are damaged and everything, but not like entire streets, like in Izium, for example, or so entire villages, like along the highways, that is just like leveled out almost. And I'm not one who has to see something to believe it,
Mhm.
but and so I didn't know if like going in person to the east would change anything in me. It's almost like a part of me didn't want it to change anything in me because then it's like, oh, maybe I do need to see to believe. But it's not that. I guess it's just like really fired up in me this motivation, this determination and commitment to continue to support Ukraine. Yeah, just this like, of course, gonna seeing something in person is gonna and like feeling the same air that's passing the building is gonna have more an effect
Mhm.
on you than just looking at a photo. Even though they're incredible, like journalists and news outlets that are doing reporting, but yeah, so I think that is like my love for Ukraine has remained consistent for years,
Mm.
and just of course being there and getting to connect with people and seeing some of these places for myself just kind of amped up my dedication.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can only imagine. And your connection with Ukrainian culture, it sounds like that's also a piece that since you were young and started dancing has become amplified over the years as well. Would you say? Yeah?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, initially you're put in dance just because like everyone is put in dance. Like that's
Yeah.
what it's like a activity for kids. And then eventually start to like appreciate why
Mhm.
you're there. You get to learn more about other aspects of the culture that the dance introduces you to. Um, so yeah.
What are some of your favorite aspects of Ukrainian culture or ones that you connect most deeply with that make you feel like you're connected to who you truly are?
Yeah, for sure dance. I've been a Ukrainian dancer my whole life. Just even like the music and just hearing the music just like get something going in me. I love I love the I guess like a way of life of importance of family and friends and community, even though like I had said in the opening, I prefer solitude, but like this like yeah, I love that. I love um the importance of gatherings and celebrations and traditions and that they have these customs that they continue to celebrate at Christmas and Easter and everything like this. You're what?
Like what? Can you give us an
Yeah.
example? Because when we talk about gathering celebrations, customs, I think that's true for so many different cultures, and I'd love to for you to share with people what's specific to Ukraine that really speaks to like your heart and soul.
I don't know if it is just one thing necessarily.
Or
Uh,
not one thing, just like example, like what would be a Ukrainian celebration?
Christmas.
What else?
I like now it sounds like I'm saying there's like no celebrations. I can't think of things, but
Or like
even
what's
like
food specific to Ukrainian
yeah.
culture?
But like any culture, it's just their own take on things. Like they have their own summer solstice celebrations as well, Ivana
Okay.
Kupala, that like women make wreaths, vinoks, and they throw them into the lake, and like as they float away, the like who whatever person picks it up is going to be who they marry, sort of a thing, like things like that. And so like yeah, I guess just anyways, stuff like that. Food, I think we all know about varenike or pierogies, and like kovbasa, uh, holopsi, cabbage rolls.
Yeah.
Um, but like to make me feel connected to myself. Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Yeah, Prokies make me feel connected to myself. No, no, no. Thank you for sharing those specific examples with us. Can you share again the name of the wreath one on the winter solstice? What was the name?
summer
Sorry,
solstice.
summer solstice.
Ivana Kupala.
Ivana Kupala.
Yes.
Yeah,
Also love learning about their different like folk beliefs or superstitions too of like and not even I think it's just like a beautiful way to like live your life with intention, not that you need to believe that something bad is going to happen if you don't do this one thing, but yeah.
yeah, amazing. And the wreath tossing around summer solstice. I think that a lot of people are looking for ways to connect with themselves or engage in rituals or ceremony in a way that isn't that's authentic to them and not appropriating someone else's culture. And so I wanted to ask you, with such a strong connection to your Ukrainian roots, if you have any advice for someone who maybe doesn't have connection with their culture but they want to connect with rituals or ceremony or some of these things in an appropriate way. If you have any advice for someone who maybe isn't Ukrainian or doesn't have connection with culture, how to still engage in living life intentionally and perhaps engaging in ritual as well.
um well the like I'm no expert on this topic of course, but like education and learning is like what we can all do to if we're yeah, to not claim something as our own, whereas it's like been done for all this time or something. Um, so I think that's a big part of like um, when you mention the appropriation aspect. Um, and about just like how to find ways to connect with culture, I think like taking looking at what you're already interested in, maybe something you already like celebrate even on like a minor scale, and then using that to like explore more options. For example, like I love writing.
Mhm.
And through this, I've like learned about some different writers who are or write about Ukrainian topics, and then even through that, like I've learned to appreciate more of like the rituals and folklore and folk tales and stuff like this. Yeah, so I mean, a big thing is just like taking what you're already interested in and trying to explore avenues that way. Um,
So sorry, just to jump in there. So for someone who's trying to connect just with anything, it doesn't have to be culture, just even within themselves. I really like this piece of advice of looking at what they're already interested in and finding a way to connect with it differently or create their own authentic ritual around what already interests them. Cool.
yes.
Awesome. I love that. Um, okay. You mentioned writing for you. Do you consider writing ritual or ceremonial for you? Or I know you're also like a freelance writer. It's also part of your work. So yeah, tell us about that.
Um, as someone who has a podcast, His Life is Ceremony, can you again just like give your definition of
Yeah.
ceremony?
Yeah, I have a couple, but like the short answer of like what is ceremony is it's something that connects us with ourselves, connects us with spirit. Ceremony is like the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Another word I like to use for ceremony to help people understand my definition of it is mindfulness. I think that's a word a lot of us can connect with in the West, and we're very familiar with mindfulness. And that those sentences I shared with the word ceremony are still true when we replace that word with the word mindfulness. Mindfulness is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Mindfulness connects us with ourself and with spirit just by slowing down, being present. So yeah, like does writing do that for
Mhm.
you?
Yes, absolutely. When for writing for work, where it's like some magazines or like advertising agencies, I'm not going to say that necessarily feels like ceremony for me. But even just I write in my journal every day.
Mm.
Even like if I can't, I have told myself, and this has worked like at least 3 lines in my journal. And like if you want to go more, go more. But if you all you can get is 3 lines, that's great. And like I say, like my notes app on my phone is just full of thoughts and full of like something comes to mind, I write it. Or if I'm trying to work through something or like don't just it definitely helps me get in touch with my emotions and like get the thoughts out so they're not just circling around in there. Um yeah, and it's kind of it when I write about some of my experiences of even say like I love creative nonfiction where you're kind of like really descriptive narrative nonfiction. And so when I try to say like write about something, even if it's just for something like Instagram,
Mm.
if I try to write about it in like a more even like poetic way, I find ways to kind of connect this one experience to other things I might have gone through before or different lessons that might come up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to recap for listeners because I thought you shared really two really powerful examples that anyone could also try on, which is writing in a journal that in itself is ritual or ceremony, and just noticing how it is a passion of yours, Kaitlin, that you also have ritual around, which is awesome. And the other one I really love was writing in notes on your phone. You know, like we live in a really modern world, and how can we, live more intentionally or with more connection and, simple ways in which we can use our phone to benefit us. And if we are having a moment of presence and connection there where something comes through to us that we want to write down to put it in your phone. So that's awesome. Okay.
Hey, wait, I should turn on a light because it's like quite dark in
Okay, and I
here.
probably have like two questions left for you.
Okay. Oops. Okay.
Um, we're talking about writing, and you wrote something very special in 2017, and I have it here. This is my signed copy. One time when I was traveling, I gave away my signed copy. It lives at Tamarack Farms and with my friend's parents. And so I had to get Kaitlin to sign me a new copy. I'm holding up her book right now, Planted: Stories from Manitoba's Natural World. You wrote and published a book in 2017.
Yes, I first released it in 2017, and then the version you're holding now is the new and improved, updated one, which I released in 2022. And so in the book, it like about nature in Manitoba, and shares the experiences of people who are inspired by nature. And so a big part of so I have a science background, and then I
Mhm.
also have like, and by background I mean like studied it in school and university, but also just have always loved science my whole life, science, nature, the outdoors. um and so one of my big connections to nature is through my Ukrainian heritage. Like there's songs, there's folklore, there's like so much about um the natural world in these like customs of Ukraine, but also even the way that people are so connected with the land. And
Mm,
I've seen this even through my grandparents, and just this like respect for the land.
mhm.
And so a big part of why I love nature is my Ukrainian heritage. And in 2022, when the full scale invasion started, like many people, I just felt like so helpless and not sure. Like, I mean, for a while, I felt I wasn't able to do a single thing. I just felt totally numb. Um, but eventually, when I was able to like regroup, I decided to reprint my book, which I already had existing. I did some updates to it, expanded a couple chapters, and I have half the proceeds from each book going
Mm,
to organizations that are providing aid in Ukraine. And so I've donated to 7 organizations so far. Um,
amazing.
and yeah, so it's been in the new version, I do talk a bit about like my connection to my Ukrainian heritage and its connection to nature.
Amazing. And how can people get their hands on one of your books?
Um, my website, KaitlinVitt.com,
Caitlin.
or just like message me through Instagram,
Yeah.
message Sam.
Okay. Yes, you can message me too. I will send you in the right direction to pick up a copy of Planted. And yeah, it's also such a great gift. I know I bought a stack of them and basically give them out like a card to people, and it's so like cute. And your sister did the illustrations, correct?
Yes, she did.
And it's so cute in terms of like sitting on a coffee table or a nightstand. Yeah, it's something that I love having around, and I personally just feel really excited when people ask me about it because I know that I'm like, oh, one of my best friends wrote that, and to see your reprint and to have half the proceeds going to Ukraine, and all the work that you're doing for that country right now, physically there or from afar, is pretty incredible. Yeah, yeah, thanks. Um, okay. What's next for you? Or what's next for Planted?
I don't know. I mean, okay, ever since I released the book, there had been people who were like, we want, like, you should do a sequel. And they're like, I'll connect you with this person and this person. And I have always considered that. And then again, just recently, someone again said, like, you should really do it. Who knows? Maybe a sequel to that. I don't know. You're the first for me to tell. Um, I definitely more writing and more books in the future. Of what kind? I don't know. In the more immediate future, I mean, I continue to volunteer with Ukrainian Patriot even while I'm in Canada. I help
Mhm.
out with a newsletter. You should all go subscribe to it. Um, and yeah, helping out with some of the communications stuff. And then I hope to be back in Ukraine in spring for a couple months, to volunteer again. And yeah, I'm not sure totally, but those are some things.
Yeah, okay. Amazing. And for us to support you in what's next, I mean, buy a copy of Planted, buy multiple copies of Planted because you need to gift one to someone and also keep one for yourself to read. Are there any other ways that we can support you or Ukraine, and what would be the best way to do that?
Um, I mean, learning about it and following like trusted news sources. The Kyiv Independent is a really good one. That's like it's an English language one that's based in Ukraine. They do really good reporting, so that's just yeah, I'll mention that. And then like so learning and not even just learning about for sure staying up to date with the what's going on, but then also learning about the culture and Ukrainians is important as well. Um, and if you're able to donating time or money, Ukrainian Patriot is clearly an organization I believe very strongly in. Um, so them, and then yeah, like not forgetting about Ukraine and trying to keep it in conversation is always
Mhm.
important as well.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, if anyone listening ever has any questions about Kaitlin or ways to support, you can also DM me, message me, email me anytime, and I will connect you with her or send you links in the to send you in the right direction. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today, Kaitlin, and for yeah, sharing with
Can
us
I
your
say one more thing though? Wait,
yeah.
can I? Okay. I I of course thought a lot about you, Sam, when I was in Ukraine, and I think about you a lot in general. Like your quotes will come to my mind,
Yeah,
or
don't
some of your
remember.
writing will come to mind. But one thing I want to mention of one major time I thought of you was when I was working in the Ukrainian Patriot warehouse,
Oh.
and so they have a warehouse, and that's where they bring in their donations. It's where we like get shipments ready to send out. Well, we do that. Yeah, when things come in, we inventory and whatever else. And so at this time, this was like one of my first days there. We were getting ready a shipment to go to a Ukrainian like armed forces battalion, and we were packaging them up, plated vests or plate carriers, individual first aid kits or IFAKs, and a couple other things, including helmets. Um, and so, anyways, this like Ukrainian Patriot is also so about more than just we don't just open up our car doors when we're in a community, say take this food and then close them up. Like it's all about like one of their slogans is like giving love, light, hope, and connection. And
Mm,
and like it's so much more like I'm so grateful I had the chance to like experience this in person too. And so even when we delivered food bags to this community in Izium, we hugged every single person when they would come up to us. We would give them a food bag, give them a hug, give them some candy. And one of the people there said, "You are the first organization to
mm,
like hug us, to touch us," and like, and they just so appreciated that. And yeah, I just love that. Like, it goes so much more beyond just what you're offering, like to really show that support. Of course, yeah, it's all important. So back to the warehouse. Um, I remember I should have looked up what post you had recently written, or maybe I was just thinking about life as ceremony in general, and like reading your incredible book proposal and everything. Um, so when I was packaging up the helmets, like I may never, I knew I would likely not be the one to like see the people who this would be delivered to, but I really did try to be intentional with like as I put in each one into the box of like thinking about almost like a little prayer for each person
mm,
whose head this would be protecting.
mhm,
And and I mean this isn't necessarily something that's gonna help them. It was more of like something that's feels good for me in that moment. But just when you're faced, yeah, when you're like faced with like that realization of like this is going to someone at the front lines who like we shouldn't be having to defend their own
mhm,
country and all
mhm,
this stuff, but it it was just kind of a nice grounding moment, and to remember and to not just overlook that like that I am just packaging stuff up and giving it off and like really
mhm.
thinking about the people who it would be serving. So thank you for that.
Aw. Thank you for sharing that story or that ceremony with all of us, 'cause, yeah, I think it's incredible that that you were doing that, to even imagine or visualize you packing those helmets and blessing them or protecting them or just thinking about where they're going is an intentional way of living and being, which I think we can all benefit from. And that's kind of the whole point of living life as a ceremony, is to be more intentional and connected to what we're doing or why we're doing things. So I guess, yeah, to wrap up and how I want to like just share with people how they can connect with a similar ceremony is to make something for someone else. And when you're making it, when you're crafting it, when you're gifting it, whatever it is that you're creating or doing for that person, to hold that person, if you know specifically who they are or just again where it might be going to, and hold them in your mind and heart, and just intentionally out loud or in your own mind, just offering this sense of blessing, protecting, love, support. Everything is energy, and it translates to what we're doing and what we're interacting with. And so, yeah, I think it's really special that you did that with those helmets and everything else that you packaged and sent off. So thanks for sharing that story with us. And I'm happy to hear you thought of me on your trip. Didn't forget about me when all these men are hitting on you left, right, and center. She's like, "What friends? I don't need friends." No, I'm just kidding. Thank you again so much for sharing your time with us today and for being here, Kaitlin. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.